I've spent many months searching the internet, like probably a lot of you, looking for the best recipes and how-to videos in making your own homemade bread using a bread machine. Today I'm going to show you what I found out over my many months of struggling with small, doughy, and not particularly very tasty loaves. And I think I finally cracked it, so I thought I'd make this video and share it with the world. What you need is the basic ingredients, and you don't need to overcomplicate it because simple is always best. Of course you'll need the bread tin and the little stirrer down here. You will need fast action dried yeast, which I've got here in the pack, which comes in the little sachets, which is a lot easier to measure. If you haven't got that, you can use the dried action yeast where you measure it yourself. I've got some pepper, basic pepper. You can use ground black pepper if you wish. I've got the strong white flour, but again you can mix it with all sorts of flour, whether you want whole wheat, rye or whatever you want there. I use olive oil. I think it gives it a better taste, but you can use butter as well. I use sea salt, but again you can use normal fine salt if you wish to. And obviously you'll need to use some tepid or warm water as well. So first thing to do, and you'll be amazed how many people do this, I've done it many times, is make sure you put the little stirring arm inside the baking tray. Okay, so the little arm's inside the baking tray now. I'm going to measure this with cups, quite straightforward really. If you haven't got cups and you don't measure it in cups, I'm sure you can go on the old internet and work out what the size of 1 cup equals if you're doing it in weights and stuff. So anyway, 1 cup. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go over to the sink, which is over there, and I'm going to put in around about 2 cups of, I wouldn't say boiling water, it's more warm water or tepid water, but certainly not cold water. It just helps with the whole process. So I'm going to go and do that now for you. What I've tended to do now, and it seems to work well for me, is I'm going to add the olive oil over here, and I'm also going to add the salt over here, and I'm also going to add the pepper over here. Now you don't have to add pepper if you don't want to, but it just adds a little bit more taste to it. But it won't make any difference in terms of the structure and composition of your bread. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add those items in, and I'll give you the measurements next. Okay, so first thing you want to do is add the olive oil to the water. I normally put 1 tablespoon. I'm using the old little plastic measures here. So 1 tablespoon there. So if we just add 1 tablespoon and put that in the lukewarm water. Move that to one side. And what we're going to do is put the salt in. And one thing I have noticed, and it's not particularly a super healthy message, is that you want to put quite a decent amount of salt in to react with the yeast. It seems to me the more salt I've put in, not only it tastes better, but the bread rises far better and you get a better consistency and less dough-like. Because if it's anything like me, you don't want it doughy. So I'm going to add some sea salt to it now. I'm going to add at least a tablespoon and a half, tablespoon and a half. But again, it's up to you how much you want to put in. But the message for me really, and it's not a healthy one, is that the more salt, the better the bread really is. But then again, who said bread was totally good for you? So anyway, let's do that now. Again, it's totally up to you if you want to put in pepper. You might have cracked black pepper or just the cheapy, easy to do stuff, the ground black pepper here. But again, just give it a bit of a shake in there, not too much, but just a bit of a dusting. And then you've got pretty much your liquid base ready to go, and all you'll need to add now is your strong white flour, your yeast, and then we're off to go cook some bread. Okay, so now we're going to add the flour and the yeast. And I've already got a pack already open, if you notice the jump there. So anyway, I'm going to add 4 cups of this flour into there. So let's do that now. add the yeast. So again, little sachets. I've made a little hole in the top of the flour to put the yeast. I've already cut the corner off. We're just going to put one sachet in, that one there, and I'm just going to pour that into the top. Okay, so we've got the bread making machine ready to go, looking a bit worse for wear, but still working nevertheless. And we've got the ingredients here. Okay, so we're going to put the ingredients inside the machine. Ready to go. Now, we're not going to put it on one of the cycles. We're just going to choose, on my machine it says dough, but basically you want to make dough. You don't want to actually cook it, because we're going to do some things that really makes a big difference to your loaf. If you just leave it in your machine, you won't get great results, okay? So what you're going to do is going to select number 9 on mine, which is dough, and we're just going to let it spin around and mix it up. So that normally takes about, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 minutes to churn it all up. So keep an eye on it, but let it do its business. Go back to it in 10-15 minutes. If you find that it's a little bit too dry, you can add a bit more tepid water. If, of course, it's too wet, you can add a bit more flour. But don't worry, it won't impact the overall loaf. So we'll come back to that in a second when that's basically turned into a nice dough ball, and then I'll explain what we need to do then before we actually bake it. Okay, so it's been mixing it up for the last 5-10 minutes, and it's pretty dough-like now, ready to go. What we're going to do now is take it out of the bread machine and out of the tin, and I'm going to show you probably the most important part about giving your bread the life it needs to have the right consistency and be a really airy, light loaf. Dough inside the tin. I'm just going to put a bit of sprinkling inside the tin. I know it's non-stick, but it gives it a nice finish. Get the bread, and just gently, very gently, just drop it in, and there we are with the bread in there. Okay, now before we put it in the machine, we're going to leave it. I'm going to leave it for about 15-20 minutes and let the air and the yeast and everything just start to activate, and it'll start to swell. And you've probably done that before, but it'll swell up. And that's one of the tricks as well. Just leave it in the tin before you put it anywhere near the machine and the heat. Okay, now again it'll differ maybe on your machine, but I'm going to put it on bake, which is 12 on here. Timing is about one hour, so anything between 45 minutes to an hour, and it should be good. So I'm going to put that on, and we will come back in an hour's time and see if it's all worked. Okay, so an hour later, and it's just beeped, and I think we're ready to see how the bread is. Let's have a look. Looking pretty good. And spin it over, and there you are. There's the bread at the end of the day, all soft and light and airy. Needs to be cooled now, so we've just put it on a cooling rack. Let's push that there. And then that will be ready to eat whenever is the perfect loaf. So there, perfect loaf. Good luck with yours.